A child laughs on a swing. A mother watches, weeping with relief. She was told this was mercy. It was never mercy. It was a transaction. Every frame of this perfect town hides one mechanism, not a fantasy for broken men, a harvesting operation, built to feed on broken grief. And the man who built it may have been its very first customer. We'll get to that. Here is what Don't Worry Darling was actually built to make you ignore. You were shown paradise, perfect lawns, perfect marriages, perfect wives, moving in perfect rhythm. Every morning, the same choreography. Husbands off to a headquarters no one discusses. Wives left behind to clean, to cook, to shop, to wait. You were told the danger here was patriarchy, a cult of masculinity, wearing a 1950s mask. That reading is comfortable. It lets you file this away as a story about gender and nothing more. That reading is also incomplete, because underneath the ideology sits older infrastructure, a protocol older than gender politics, older than incel resentment, older even than this town's manicured lawns. Grief. Listen to Frank's language, stripped of its politics. What we lost, what was taken, what we deserve to have back. That is not the language of ambition. That is the language of the bereaved. Every recruitment sermon in this film is a eulogy, wearing a business suit, delivered to men who mistake their emptiness for entitlement. And then, the first crack in the illusion. An egg, cracked open at the breakfast counter. Nothing inside. The film wants you to read this as horror, a glitch in the simulation. It is also a receipt, proof of a domestic ritual with no substance behind it, because the men do not need to eat. Their real bodies are sustained elsewhere, on tubes, in a room this film never lets the wives see. Imagine a town where every domestic act, cooking, cleaning, mothering, is not care, it is payment. A daily transaction, disguised as devotion, performed by women who do not yet know they are the ones being billed. That is the chilling reality this film buried under gingham dresses and cocktail parties. Here is the evidence. Not theory, forensics, pulled directly from the film's own frames. Bunny tells Alice the truth, or a version of it. "They're gone," she says. "In here, I get to keep them." The camera holds tight on her face. It does not let you look away. But it also does not let you look closely enough, because the child on that swing, laughing, is the exact same laugh, the exact same arc of the swing we already watched in an earlier scene, minutes before, in the background of someone else's afternoon. That is not a coincidence. That is manufactured, biological mimicry. A dead child's data, replayed with enough precision to fool a mother who needed it to be real. Precision that expensive does not happen by accident. It happens by design. Watch every child in this town, across the entire runtime. Same haircuts, same heights, same recycled lines of dialogue, scene after scene, town gathering after town gathering. The director shoots them at a distance, always slightly out of focus, always at the edge of frame. That distance is not an aesthetic choice. That distance is concealment. You were never meant to look closely enough to count them. Now go back to Margaret. The film frames her as unstable, hysterical, a cautionary tale about what happens to women who ask too many questions. But watch her eyes in the seconds before the town turns on her. She is not staring into empty space, the way a woman unraveling might. She is staring at one specific child, with the fixed, private horror of recognition. She did not lose her mind. She recognized the inventory. She saw a child who was not hers, being run for someone else's grief, in someone else's borrowed afternoon. That is why she had to disappear. Not because she was broken, because she saw the mechanism operating in plain daylight, and the mechanism cannot survive being seen. Now, the moment this film almost admits everything. Alice presses her hand to the mirrored glass of the headquarters, and the illusion fractures. Dancers, spinning in black and white, an eye in unbearable close-up, staring back at her. The film frames this as a hallucination. Watch the geometry instead. That eye is not shot like a vision. It is shot like a security aperture, opening. She is not glimpsing the truth. The system is registering that she is looking. An alarm, tripped, the moment a customer gets too close to the machinery behind the curtain. Imagine a system so confident in its own concealment, it has already scripted your rebellion before you have even attempted it. Watch Frank's hands during Alice's confrontation at the dinner table, steady, flat on the wood, unhurried, while everyone around him tightens with fear. A man improvising terror does not sit like that. A man who has run this exact scene before does. Alice was never the first customer to see through the product. She was simply the latest data point in a predictable and profitable stage of grief. Then the ECT sessions, Dr. Collins, calm, clinical, methodical. The film frames this as medical violence used to silence a woman. It is also something else, a rehearsal, in miniature, of the exact suppression happening to her actual, unconscious body, somewhere in the real world, on a table this film hides until it no longer can. And when the reveal finally comes, Alice's true apartment, cramped, cold, underlit compared to Victory's gold, the film asks you to grieve the loss of pastel beauty. Notice that. It is training you to prefer the gilded cage over the woman's actual, hard-won, unglamorous freedom. Here is the detail almost no one clocks on a first watch. Every character in this film gets a glimpse of their real life outside the simulation. Alice, exhausted in that modest apartment. Jack, resentful and unemployed. Even Bunny, grieving in a house with 2 empty bedrooms. Frank gets nothing, not one frame of his real life, anywhere in this film. The camera protects exactly one secret in this entire runtime. His. That is not an oversight. That is the biggest clue the architects of this deception ever handed you, hiding in the negative space of the edit. The man selling Resurrection built his first prototype in private, before he ever thought to sell it to anyone else. Ancient grief, wearing a modern interface. Here is where the suppressed truth nearly surfaced, and here is where the narrative buried it fastest. Jack confesses. He tries to justify the unforgivable, drugging her, restraining her, forcing her eyes open on invasive machinery, stealing her consent for years, by calling it a gift, by insisting she was miserable in the life she actually built. Notice the lighting during this confession. It has not changed since their earliest tender scenes together. The film refuses to reclassify him as a predator, even at the exact moment he confesses, on camera, to predation. That is not an accident. That is a deception embedded in the visual grammar itself, protecting him until the very last frame it possibly can. Alice kills him. Shot in near balletic slow motion, glass catching the light. The same rhythm, the same choreography as the film's earlier dance sequences. Her act of survival is aestheticized exactly like her captivity was. Spectacle in either direction. The film cannot resist beauty, even at a murder. And then, the moment the film wants you to read is liberation. Shelley kills Frank, declares it her turn. The camera shoots this as a coup succeeding, upright posture, decisive blocking, triumphant score. But the frame never widens to show the children. The inventory remains fully staffed, fully running, untouched by the change in ownership at the top. Shelley did not dismantle the operation. She inherited the ledger. This is the existential threat this film never says out loud. Predatory infrastructure does not require its original architect to survive. It only requires someone volatile enough and willing enough to keep the accounts open after he's gone. Now, the ending. The gasp for air, the cut to black. Watch it again, side by side with the ECT flashback from earlier in the film. Same sound design, same framing, same cut to darkness. The film already taught you, once, not to trust this exact beat, and it is betting that you forgot. Here is the disturbing part. It does not actually matter whether Alice wakes into reality or into another tier of the same system, because the grief harvest was never built around her captivity specifically. It only requires that grief exists somewhere, and grief always does. Imagine an infrastructure that does not need a single villain to keep functioning, only a customer, only someone unhealed enough to pay on any given morning, in any given town. That is the conspiracy this film dressed as a feminist thriller, not a story about one controlling husband, a study of an economy that will never run out of clients, because loss is the most renewable resource human beings produce, and someone, somewhere, will always be selling it back. Think about the implications of a system built not to serve desire, but to monetize absence. Every empty chair at a dinner table, every child who did not live long enough, every marriage that quietly ran out of air, all of it potential inventory, waiting for the right predatory architecture to come along and offer a price. That is the true suppressed reality of this film, not a warning about a cult, a warning about a market, one that already exists, in smaller, quieter, less cinematic forms, every single day, in ordinary towns that never needed a mirrored headquarters to begin with. Here is the dark takeaway. Power does not need to dominate you to control you. It only needs to know exactly what you are grieving and offer, gently, to sell it back to you. Was Bunny a victim of Frank's system, or was she its most loyal customer? If this truth disturbed you, good. Smash like and subscribe. The Pulse has more dark truths waiting.